Okay, before we start on the resolutions, Darrell, did you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just have a couple of concerns on the upcoming variances that you're looking at. Maybe not so much with corn belts. I believe that's first on your list. I don't think we have a lot of people who are going to build 250-foot towers in our residential areas. But as far as like the Ortner property, we have an awful lot of small lots in this community. If this is granted, what's stopping everybody else from wanting to do the same thing? And I know for a fact you're going to have a couple of them coming up right in that neighborhood that are going to be rebuilt in the next couple of years alone. Quite honestly, I failed to see where they proved true hardship. Like Ortner's, you know, they can still build a house. They kind of got the cart in front of the horse, not knowing the full ordinances. They can still build a house, they just can't build that house. You know, they've owned that property for 37 years. I mean, they knew 37 years ago it's a small lot. Like I say, my only concern as your building inspector is how are we going to tell everybody else down the line that they can't do it? Or do we just open the door for a lot more variances? You know, Steve Shodden's the same way. I mean, Steve knows he's cramped to the front. How many garages are we going to allow to build that far over the lot, or that close to the lot line? You know, truly, where is the hardship? You can't compare the garage next door because that's illegal. Two wrongs don't make a right. I just, just keep in mind, if these two are granted, we're probably going to have a whole bunch more coming down the pipeline. Because everybody's going to want that same thing.
And the P&Z people knew about this?
Well, planning and zoning doesn't. We have nothing to do with it. It'd be the Board of Adjustment.
The Board of Adjustment, did they?
Well, they approved it.
Did they talk about it or just approve it?
Well, no, they had discussion about it, you bet. But they still approved it. And like I say, I'm not trying to say they were wrong or right or whatever. I'm just saying I'm concerned about what's going to happen in the future. We got to be a little careful as to break the ordinances or however you want to word it. But we have an awful lot of small lots in the community. It's not a very rare occurrence. It's going to happen a lot. So think about that.
Thanks, Darrell.
Yep.
I'm actually here to speak on the same issue tonight. My name is Siobhan Harmon, and we live directly west of the Shodden's house. And I did go to the Planning and Zoning meeting last Wednesday, and I did speak at the Planning and Zoning meeting last Wednesday. And I'd actually like to add a little bit about my background. I am a real estate professional. I licensed in the state of Iowa. I have a consulting company. I do construction. I'm before planning and zoning boards quite often in my career. And, the reason why I spoke is, of course, is that since we are the property directly west, I have a number of concerns. The first one is being visibility, that when you're either pulling in or out of our driveway, the visibility is blocked. There's a little bit of a turn there in the road on Lakewood. And we've got, 5 kids. And granted, while the kids are my responsibility, there are also other children that are on the street that are not our kids. There's bicyclists that are going by. And the garage that the Shoddens are proposing would be, they're looking for a 9-foot variance, so they'd be 1 foot within that setback. And, setbacks do affect property value. There's no doubt about it, and that's one of the reasons why we bought in Lakeview, is because Lakeview has well thought out setback requirements, and so that there's uniformity in building. I do have a great concern that, what I didn't understand is I've never been to a planning and zoning meeting here, I've never been to a council meeting here, and so of course all this has happened in 1 week, that I'm before both. But if I had known what I had known, I would have stood up and I would have spoken about the first variance, which I can't remember their last name, which is escaping the Ortner. And I would have spoken on that one because when that one came up, it was basically brought up that they would like a two-car garage and that they needed an 18-foot garage because cars are 16 feet and they would like to be able to store a boat. They also brought up the fact that they had looked at options to replace the home that they currently have. They looked at 4 different options and this was the best way to go for them. And it's a manufactured home, but nobody ever asked the question, well, you know, you might need to shorten your house 30 inches in order to get the two-car garage if that's what you want. And again, I don't believe that there was any hardship that was provided during their presentation. And I believe that it was the same thing during the Shoddens, that, you know, their lot is on, it's a double lot. Their house is toward the rear of the lot. And when they built their house 37 years ago, they built their current garage right at the lot line, which doesn't allow them to have a garage now, unless, of course, a variance is passed that they would get one. But it is going to open up a can of worms that everybody else is going to be looking for one. There was the argument that was made that Steve's garage would actually line up next to the next-door neighbor's. Well, that's one house. The other 7 going down the other line are all in conformance, and for the most part going the other direction, everybody's in conformance. But that argument can be made all the way around the lake, that, well, since they've got it, the next person can go out and get a variance for it, and the next person can get a variance. And as I drive around the lake, I mean, I drove around the lake before I got here, you know, a lot of people are either renovating their cabins or thinking about renovating their cabins. So I think the gentleman that spoke is absolutely right. I mean, I think you're going to be seeing more of this. And now that you're letting them through, the floodgates aren't going to stop on this. So, you know, I have a greater concern about, you know, home values and public safety issues in regard to the variance. So, thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you. We'll take the resolution 1021 first. I'm granting exception to the Corn Belt. There's no trouble with that one, is it, Darrell?
No.
Ask what the purpose, maybe I missed that, and I just am not recalling what the value will be of the additional tower. I'm not a Corn Belt. What it is that they provide? And how they
Cell phone service.
Is it cell phone?
Which companies is this then, Larry? You want to explain the project a little bit?
The service is for Iowa Wireless, which is a T-Mobile affiliate. And the only tower we have right now is the Lakeview site, or the Wall Lake site and the Auburn site. And we have build towers in Lytton, Sac City, and Early, Shaler. And there's a problem in Lakeview because of the terrain. As you leave the west side and head down toward the lake, the signal doesn't come across very well, and that's why we have to go so high to get across there. The new 71 changing requires the heights too, and I believe your discussion at the meeting the other night was it's the same height as the current tower that Long Lines has, and it will be built on our property that we already own. We also plan on doing some wireless internet off of that same tower.
Just to clarify the height on that existing one out there behind Denny's is a long line tower, and that's 250 feet tall, same as the one that's proposed. That U.S. Cellular site by the water tower is 180 feet tall.
Are you guys going to mow the grass better than Long Lines does?
Well, we're mowing the grass now.
That'd be good.
And the uniqueness about this application, I think, is that it's a special exception application and variance. Within the code, it allows, as a special exception, utility substations and relay stations. And you know, if this is a relay station, it's allowed to be there by special exception. Okay, and then if it's allowed to be there, then you're saying, where's the hardship to vary from the height requirement? And the hardship for that then is, you know, a 35-foot tall cell tower doesn't do much. So it's really needed for the business. So that would be the argument as far as issuing the special exception and the variance on this issue.